Umaga, Filipinos. Good morning. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness, reporting from our Eagle News studio in the Western Canadian province of Alberta. My city, as you know, is Edmonton, and we're bringing you news and commentary from across the country. Oh, it's Friday morning. Made it through another week. Well, for me, it was a short week. I only had a 3-day week, but yeah, for you guys, I guess it was a little bit longer. But we're at the end of it all. What have you got planned for the weekend? I think I'm just going to take it easy, recharge, and probably get a list of chores to do. But anyway, be that as it may, let's check AccuWeather now for today's forecast. Right now, it's partly sunny in Metro Manila, 29 degrees. It feels like 35. The clouds set to roll in throughout the day. There's thunder showers forecast for tonight. Should get up to about 34 degrees today, but it's going to be a hot one again. It's going to feel like 40. Now, again, if you have breathing difficulties or anything like that, it's advisable to stay indoors again today. Air quality rated as poor. Time for that second cup of coffee now. You know what would go good with that? It's some Panacel. I wish I had some. Just sit back now, pour that second one, sit back, relax, and let's bring you up to date with what's happening in Canada. First, we'll look at the weather across the country. Our street scene today comes from Calgary. This is the Bridlewood area of Calgary. Oh my goodness, people are having fun there in the park. Don't you wish you were outside? Thanks to Raphael for that video, and we'll look at the weather map now. On the west coast, we have rain and 13 degrees in Victoria. Vancouver, partly cloudy and 13. Crossing the mountains to Alberta, we've got rain in Edmonton. Oh my goodness, it's been chilly here all day, rained all night, but chilly here, 7 degrees, and that's about as high as it got. Calgary also reported some rain earlier, and they were at 4 degrees. I believe it's warmed up there now. Regina, 24 with some clouds. Winnipeg, mostly cloudy and 23. We go over to Toronto, where it's mainly sunny and 18. A few hours north of Toronto, we've got Ottawa, the nation's capital, partly cloudy and 24. In Montreal, it's mostly cloudy and 24. The Atlantic provinces, they're surprisingly warm for this time of year. Actually, I'd call it hot. Fredericton, New Brunswick, the sun is shining. It's 28 degrees there. Halifax, almost there. Mostly cloudy, but got up to 24 degrees. And well, we go north to St. John's, Newfoundland, partly cloudy and 15 degrees there. And for St. John's, that's pretty warm for this time of the year. Some of the stories we're following today is Canada ready to handle a second wave of COVID-19. We've got a roundup of what's happening in Ontario and Quebec from two of our correspondents there. Could Canadian Airlines be forced to refund tickets that were canceled because of COVID-19? How well did Sweden's approach to handling the pandemic work out? More Canadian soldiers helping out in those nursing homes in Ontario and Quebec. They've come down with coronavirus. And we'll find out what the Canadian Football League might be up to this year. We begin with the president of the Canadian Medical Association. He's warning us that the country is gambling by reopening the economy now. Dr. Sandy Buckman told the Senate's Social Affairs Committee the country is not fully prepared to handle a second wave of COVID-19. He says Canada doesn't have the adequate diagnostic testing needed for people who have the disease, and he says contact tracing is insufficient. In addition, Buckman says serologic testing isn't being done. What's that, you ask? Serologic testing is what's done to assess the immunity for the immunity of the disease within the population. So we don't know how many are immune, if anybody at all. Buckman is also critical of allowing the healthcare system to resume routine procedures. He says, we just don't have enough information to make good, evidence-informed decisions about resuming things like elective surgeries or routine primary care. Will there be a second wave? Probably. Historically, that's what happens with pandemics. Even Canada's Prime Minister says, there'll likely be a second wave. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told his daily briefing today the government is aware there could be further outbreaks.
I think one of the things we know is that in pandemics there are usually second waves. The question that we're very much focused on is, as that second wave begins, or as we start to see resurgences in a reopened economy, how quickly are we able to contain them and control them? And that comes down to the scale of testing, the scale of contact tracing we're able to have right across the country. That's why the federal government has stepped up in its offer to provinces to support them in massively scaling up testing capacity and contact tracing capacity. We know, particularly in those areas that are still working to get the spread of the virus under control, it is going to be important to increase testing now, as we're seeing in those areas, but also make sure that as we move forward through the summer and obviously into the fall, we are ready to act extremely quickly so that the population at large won't be in situations of having to go back into confinement. But that depends on citizens doing their part. It also depends on having that testing capacity, and that's what we're moving forward on.
Trudeau says he'll be talking with the premiers tonight. They have a weekly meeting every Thursday night. It's Thursday night here in Canada, still international dateline, don't you know? But he'll be talking with the premiers tonight about increased testing when they meet. Our chief public health officer in Canada, her name's Dr. Theresa Tam. She's again telling us today this is not over. It's not even close to being over. She acknowledges, though, people are feeling what she calls quarantine fatigue. But she says, for the foreseeable future, we have to pace ourselves. We can't be in a hurry. You know, as restrictions ease, there's that temptation to get out there and do things that we used to do, but now is not the time to forget about public health measures. I know here in Alberta, we're allowed now to have gatherings of up to 50 people if they're outdoors, not indoors, but 50 people outside. But there's still restrictions. Got to keep the physical distancing. And no food, no potlucks, and I know, I miss them too. But this is not recommended at all, bringing food to these things and sharing food. And you know, we've all thought from time to time, how do I keep myself? How do I keep my family safe? A valid question. So life is different, and that's where the quarantine fatigue sets in. But don't let it get you down. The numbers in Canada today, we're closing in on 81,000 cases of coronavirus since the pandemic began, well over 6,000 deaths. We look at the epicenter of the pandemic in our country now, Ontario and Quebec. 86% of the cases are in those two provinces, 94% of the deaths in those two provinces. Let's find out what's happening there. We begin first in Ontario. And as that province reopens, Eagle News correspondent Sabrina Delos Reyes tells us that people in the province are being told, don't be complacent, follow the rules.
As a result of the gradual and careful reopening of the province, Ontarians who are returning to work, going out shopping, and taking public transit are now being instructed to continue following public health advice and specific recommendations on how to choose, wear, and care for appropriate face coverings in situations where physical distancing may be challenging.
And if you're going out for necessities, or if you're taking public transit and you can't keep 2 meters apart, we recommend that you wear a non-medical mask or a face covering. As the Chief Medical Officer has said, anything that covers your nose and mouth can help protect you and people around you.
These recommendations include wearing a face covering with at least 2 layers of tightly woven material that can be cleaned multiple times without losing shape. Not everyone should wear a mask, as health experts state that face coverings should not be put on children under the age of 2, anyone who has trouble breathing, or anyone who is unable to remove it without assistance. Public health officials also advise that medical masks, such as surgical and N95 masks, should be reserved for healthcare workers, those providing direct care, first responders, and individuals who are ill and must go out to seek medical care or pick up medication or groceries. It is also important to note that face masks or non-medical masks are encouraged but not mandatory in the province, and it is not a substitute for physical distancing or hand washing as emphasized by the Chief Medical Officer of Health.
In addition to the face coverings, Health officials are recommending all transit agencies put the following measures in place. Allow for physical distancing by admitting fewer passengers and using physical markers between seats. Ensure the availability of alcohol-based hand sanitizer upon entering and exiting the vehicle. Implement engineering controls like plexiglass barriers between drivers and passengers and enhance cleaning of high-touch areas. As more people start taking transit again, these public health measures will help keep everyone safe.
Now that the country is starting to reopen the economy and adapting to the new normal, the smallest actions are possibly some of the biggest measures anyone can do, thus making a great impact in the fight against one of the largest pandemics in history. In Toronto, Sabrina De Los Reyes, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Standing by in Ottawa now, we have Eagle News correspondent Andre Lejoie. Good morning, Andre. Bring us up to date on what's happening in your area.
Good morning, Tom. According to the City of Ottawa, it is extending its suspension of the city permit for special events, festival, and other cultural program until Monday, August 31st. Major events that attract large numbers of participants make physical distancing impossible or canceled until August 31st. The city released toolkit to help business reopen safely. That is consultation with the Ottawa Public Health, and according to the city, the toolkit provides guidance on preparation and the workplace employees and operations to resume while ensuring physical distancing, and provides links to official resources such as public health signage, sector-specific guidelines, and government financial assistance program. Mayor Jim Watson thanks all the Ottawa business for their effort. Thanks the Ottawa business for their efforts to date is getting the people to work safely in the city priority. The Quebec Deputy Premier announced that the Provincial Medical Officer of Health approved wider public contact. As of Friday, province will permit in outdoor gatherings up to 10 people from no more than 3 households. The regulation would permit small backyard barbecues and other gatherings, but indoors dinner parties and other activities will continue to be banned. The province will also reopen personal health providers such as dentists across the province June 1st. Personal care business such as hair salon will only be allowed to open on that date outside Montreal and nearby Joliette regional community. Across the river of Ottawa, Gatineau police reported on Wednesday that costs for maintaining the control of the bridges between Ottawa and Gatineau could cost the department more than $420,000. They were placed from April 1st to May 18th. Spokesman Marianne Leduc said Gatineau police checked more than 360 vehicles during the blockage, turning back just over 4 to 5% due to travel deemed non-essential, people exhibit COVID-19 symptoms and the like. In Ottawa and Gatineau, Andre Lejoie for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Now, before you go, Andre, I want to get your sense of how things are going there. You know, we earlier in the program talked about the large number of cases in Ontario and Quebec. Things are beginning to open up there on both sides of the provincial boundary. How are people reacting to this? Are they in favor of this? Are they cautious? What's the feeling you get?
Well, right now, Tom, I would say it's pretty much 50-50. There's still lots of people that are concerned about the fact that, like they said, you have to have three different addresses, but it's still hard for some people that they say that, you know, they gather together, they leave their house because they are gathered all together. So they leave and they go somewhere else to meet other people. So it makes it like people are a bit worried about the fact that they're traveling from one place to another. So yeah, I would say it's pretty 50-50 with all that right now.
Well, keep us posted on all of that, Andre. Don't be a stranger. It's always good to have you on the program. Still to come, public pressure to force airlines to give cash refunds for canceled tickets. We'll tell you about that. Should we have handled the pandemic like Sweden did, with fewer restrictions? And in sports, an update on the Canadian Football League. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada.
Iba't iba man ang pinanggalingan, iisa lang ang pinangahawakan. Ang pangarap na makilala sa kanilang larangan. Mas titindi pa ang performances ng ating mga TNG aspirants dito lang sa pinakabago at pinakamalaking talent competition ng Philippine Television. Ito ang...
Tagisan ng Galing is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sandig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sandig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutrichos, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa Nutrichos. Magnolia Chicken Templados, delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Lunch and Meat, pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda, kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Food Standard Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, masarap, mabango at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. Participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint. Colorful protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. R Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, EMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, Sandmade Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! Sandmade Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
The Bulacan Bulk Water Project is a treatment facility that will provide bulk water to the 24 municipalities of Bulacan to meet the increasing water demand of its residents. Through concessionaire, SMC Infrastructure also initiated the significant improvements of the Manila North Harbor Port, the country's busiest port.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutrichunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutrichunks.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ibang klase ang sarap ng corned beef mo. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Kaya perfect ang sarap. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
This is Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness. Well, before the pandemic broke out, did you book an airline flight? If so, was it canceled or did you cancel it? How about refunds? Did you get your money back? I'm not sure what country you're viewing this program in now, because some countries have actually ordered airlines to give passengers back their money, cash, no vouchers. Here in Canada, it's up to the airline, and quite frankly, their financial cupboards are bare. They don't have any money. So what they're doing is offering people vouchers for flights that were canceled. They can take these flights sometime in the future, but a lot of these vouchers, I think all of them do, they have expiry dates. Bottom line, many people bought tickets they can't use. They can't get a refund for them, and many likely won't use the voucher. It's frustrating, you know, and full disclosure, my wife and I are among those people. We bought an airline ticket and couldn't use it, and that's what we got. We got a trip sometime in the future. There's an online petition now circulating in Canada calling on the Canadian government to force airlines to give out a refund. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked about this at his daily briefing. He says, you know, it's a tough situation. It really is tough, because you have to balance the rights of passengers against the survival of the airlines.
I think we recognize how impacted air travel and airlines are by this COVID-19 pandemic. We also recognize that many Canadians are out of pocket for tickets that they are obviously not going to be using. I think we need to have some very careful discussions with airlines, with the air travel sector, and indeed with Canadians who are concerned, to try and figure out a way forward where we can ensure that Canadians are treated fairly, and our airline industry remains there for when our economy picks up again.
Tricky situation indeed, and incidentally, the Prime Minister hasn't indicated whether there'll be any specific help for the airline industry in Canada. Now, equally tricky is how the provinces in Canada dealt with the pandemic. You know, there's 10 provinces in Canada and 10 different approaches. And there's always the armchair epidemiologists, you know, the Monday morning quarterbacks who like to second guess our experts. They say, well, why did we lock down so hard? You know, in Sweden, they left elementary schools open. Retailers were still open. Restaurants could remain open. You know, the physical distancing orders, yeah, they were there, but they were kind of minimal compared to what we got there. Why didn't we do that? Our Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, says, yeah, the restrictions certainly may have been looser in Sweden, but she says people there paid a price.
Sweden's advice-based rather than regulatory approach came at some cost. As of yesterday, their toll was 3,698 deaths. That is 36 deaths per 100,000 in their population, which is 12 times Alberta's rate of 3 per 100,000 population. In addition, their ICU admission rate was 18 times Alberta's.
Sweden were elderly people. They were people over the age of 70. Now, Hinshaw says even though there was a less of a lockdown, more stuff was allowed to stay open. The Swedish economy was still affected.
Despite Sweden's less stringent approach, their economy has also shrunk in a similar way to neighboring countries who used much more aggressive containment measures. My point is not that there is one right or wrong way to deal with the pandemic, but rather that there are costs to every choice. In Sweden, there has been a cost of higher death rates. In Alberta, as elsewhere around the world, there has been a cost of temporary restrictions on some freedoms. We have not seen a high attack rate or death toll here because Albertans have protected each other by our actions.
You know, I think on balance, and this is just opinion here, I think on balance, I like our outcome better. The Canadian military reporting 28 soldiers helping out in nursing homes in Ontario and Quebec have tested positive for COVID-19. You know, it was only about 10 days ago, there were only 5 cases amongst the soldiers helping out. Now 28, 16 of those cases in Quebec, 12 in Ontario. There are nearly 1,700 members of the armed forces working in some 30 long-term care homes. Some of them are providing medical assistance, some of the medics there. Others are helping out with other duties, things like cleaning, serving food, assisting with the basic needs of people living there. It's been a real problem just trying to find enough help to keep these long-term care homes staffed. And again, our military has stepped up to offer it service. Well, the Canadian Football League has been telling us its survival is threatened if the season is cancelled. Joining me live this morning from Vancouver, Eagle News sports reporter Schulte Horvath. Schulte, what's happening with professional football here in Canada?
Well, you might remember a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that the Canadian Football League was asking the federal government to provide financial assistance of up to $150 million. Well, the federal government still hasn't officially responded, but the provincial government of Ontario has stated they will not be helping out 3 of the CFL franchises that are in the province with a bailout. Yesterday, however, the Canadian Football League released a few updates regarding their upcoming season, and a lot of it came as no surprise to many of the people who have been following the league. In a statement sent to season ticket holders across the country, Commissioner Randy Ambrosie stated that the league hopes to return in September following multiple delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was also mentioned that the Saskatchewan Roughriders would not be hosting this year's championship game. They were scheduled to host it in November. However, they will be awarded the 2022 Grey Cup. This year, if there is a season, the team with the best record that qualifies for the Grey Cup will host the championship game. This gives all 9 teams a chance at hosting the year-end event. And lastly, the annual Touchdown Atlantic event, which showcases 2 teams squaring off in the Maritimes, has been canceled. This year's matchup was supposed to include Toronto and Saskatchewan playing in Halifax. Halifax and the Maritimes, of course, doesn't have a team, but every year there's one regular season game that's played there. Tickets for this marquee matchup were sold out, and the league stated they'll be contacting fans directly who purchased tickets to discuss their options. In Vancouver, BC, I'm Schulte Horvath, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Schulte, certainly not a good time for professional football in Canada. What do you hear from fans that you've talked to? Are they pessimistic about even a September start?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only with the CFL. It's most sports. As soon as there's a shortened season, a lot of fans will say, there's an asterisk on the champion. They're not the true champion. So a lot of people would rather not have the season this year, but I honestly don't think that's a likely choice for the Canadian Football League, because I don't think they'll survive into the following season if they don't have one this year.
Just quickly, the NFL, they face some of the same challenges, but they've at least got TV money.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have money, and not only TV money, but league revenue, like the shares. They can forego this entire season or play this season without fans, and they'll be totally fine. Whereas the CFL, if they play a season without fans, they'll be in financial ruin.
Schulte, always good to have you on the program. And so, do you need some sports programming? I mean, yeah, just like we said, there's no games. We don't know whether there will be any games for a while, but to help you get through that drought, tune into EBC Sports International Home Edition. Lots of talk, lots of debate. It's up on Facebook, it's up on YouTube, and there's more great programming from EBC. I got to remember the network I work for. That's our program for today. We'll be back on Monday. On behalf of the Canadian News team, have a good weekend. I wish you all good health. Take care of others. Take care of yourself. Stay home. Stay safe. Stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Stay tuned now for Aguila Belita, hosted by Maricar Velasco.